All right, everybody, welcome to the 325th edition of the Holy Backboard Podcast. I am Dustin here in Rip City, and I got my man
Sage chilling live and direct. Very excited about this podcast, man. The Blazers, it is what it is. We're expected to talk about the Blazers, and that's great, but it's kind of hard to talk about having two amazing civs defensively and how we don't have the capabilities of making it work with, the two bad defenders. But this is inspiring. I love talking about prospects and what they can potentially be in the league. And I'm so happy to be doing this again. I mean, it's a bummer that Blazers are at a place where we probably feel comfortable talking about these prospects and for the chance that we can get them, but I'm ready. I'm ready to roll.
Speaking of that comfort level, the Blazers currently sit 10th right now in the lottery rankings, 28 and 30, coming out of the All-Star break. They also would own the New York Knicks pick, which would be 22nd. So, we really have the whole range of draft prospects to cover this year. While it would be unlikely for Portland to sneak into the top four, funnier things have happened. But when you also factor in that Knicks pick, there is ways to maneuver up a little bit here and a little bit there. And as you mentioned, second year of doing our Future Friday content series. Really fun to get a deep dive into these prospects. And it's also interesting to see who you hit on, who you missed on, even early on in their rookie seasons. And it's just a really fun way to follow the league because a lot of these players, they're not on national TV because they're getting drafted to teams probably not ready to win championships. When we all know the NBA likes to showcase the same handful of teams across their networks. So it's still fun to catch those highlights and see how they're doing climbing up the rookie ladder and so on. But without further ado, the first prospect of the 2023 draft class that we will be discussing in our Future Friday series is power forward Jarace Walker from the University of Houston. A quick rundown on Jarace and how his season is going so far. Currently, he's playing for the number one team in the land, both in the AP and the coaches poll. The Houston Cougars are 25 and 2 at the moment. Jarace is a five-star recruit. He was the 12th player overall coming out of IMG Academy, same place where Portland Trailblazer guard Anthony Simons came from. And he, like I mentioned, he was the 12th player overall ranked by rivals. And at the moment, the Ringer has Jarace 5th on their big board, and Tankathon has Jarace 7th on their big board. I've been checking out mock drafts, and I've seen him climb as high as 4. So there's kind of a range of really early lottery to maybe top 10. So it's starting to get fluid in the sense of you have a lot of collegiate games under the season or under their wings. The players are starting to separate from one another, and teams can kind of see who they are going to target. So far, in 26 games, Jarace is playing 26 minutes per game, just over 11 points on nearly 50% shooting from the field, 39% from three on 2.5 attempts, 6.5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, a steal. As I mentioned, starting for the number one team in the country. Sage, this is a prospect that you were most excited to talk about.
Doug, I've never smiled this much for a Holy Backboard podcast.
You always pick a handful of guys each year. A couple years ago, it was Desmond Bane and Xavier Tillman. Both ended up, coincidentally enough, on Memphis. And I would say Desmond Bane has probably been the steal of that draft class, going in the last pick of the first round and arguably a top 3 player from that class. Last year, you were really, really high on a Chet Holmgren. The book has still been yet to be written on Chet, whether the injuries are going to be a prolonged hamstring for him, if he's going to be hamstring by them, or if he's going to kind of break the mold like Joel Embiid was and play up to an all-NBA caliber potential. But Jarace, you've said it from the jump. He is your guy from this draft class. Tell the listeners why that is.
I think the versatility in what he can do on the basketball court is just so diverse. Like offensively, he could be, a hub playmaking wise that can make decisions. He can isolate against smaller guys and post them up. He can go against bigger guys and go around them and score. He probably has the best floater in college at 6'9" and is a horse. He just has so much you can do. Like, if you need him to make that pass, he'll make that pass and it's going to have mustard on it and it's going to be like a good read. Like, I watch Anthony Simons try and play point guard, and then I look at Jarace Walker making plays offensively, setting up his bigs or setting up the corner shooter. And I'm like, damn, if Ant could only pass like the 6'9" power forward, we could be in such a better position. So it's really the versatility offensively and defensively. I think we should talk about his offense first because there might be more moles on it than the defense, which I think I haven't really seen a better rookie or freshman defender than him. He outside of Wemby, which I think he's just such a unicorn, he's probably the best defensive prospect in this draft at 6'9". So it's just the versatility of what you can do. It like whoever the coach is can put him in so many different ways and lanes, and he can be a good basketball player. So that's what makes me so curious about what he can do in the league. Like, he's on Houston. They're the number one team in the nation. They're not highlighting him like if he went to LSU. If he went to LSU, he could be number 3 on people's boards because of his versatility. But he's on the best team in the league, playing really good basketball, playing really hard, playing in their really difficult defensive scheme, and looks like the best defensive prospect. So I'm just amazed at his versatility. You're muted.
So you're looking at a player standing 6'8", weighing 240, is measured so far via the ringer to have a 7'2" wingspan. So he's able to make up for that probably smaller stature size-wise as a power forward. And I think both you and I are pretty convinced he's a 4, maybe a small ball 5.
I think he could definitely do the small ball 5 and
at the next level. Yeah. And offensively, let's kind of get into it first. Where it starts and stops, I think, is shooting. Right. In the modern NBA game, you have to be able to at least keep the defense honest. We always talk about Nasir Little, and he has to shoot league average to stay on the floor, which he has done. With Jarace Walker, the form, I don't see too many issues with the form, but it's still right now it's basically just catch and shoot. He does have a little bit of a one dribble pull up, maybe 2 feet inside the collegiate 3-point arc. Those are really his go-to moves.
Outside the floater.
Yeah. And he loves the floater. Almost
he loves the floater
to a fault.
Yeah.
With that athleticism and length, you would like to see him grow into a finisher. Like, he's initiating the contact. He's getting to the line, kind of in that Zion Williamson mold where he kind of just puts his head down, and you have to really want to take that charge, right?
Yeah. It's a business decision what you want to do with Jarace, because he's built. He's 6'8", 240. He's a fucking tank. But he's a skilled tank. Like, he's a skilled tank. I are you worried about a shot?
It's not Michael Kidd-Gilchrist levels of worried, but it's not Shaden Sharp coming out of the draft. Okay. Like, it doesn't look perfect, and it looks so. Here's the good. I see he does have a bit of a quick high release on the catch and shoots, like we've seen Jeremy Grant do this year, and I think that's perfect for what you want him to do. I don't think, and I've seen the Kawhi Leonard comparisons, and I don't think he's going to hit that ceiling. I think Kawhi is, talk about Wemby being a unicorn. I think Kawhi is in a level of his own as well. I don't think offensively he'll get to that level of shot creation, and I think that's what separates that. But I do think he could be respectable. And I think when you're drafting Jarace, you're drafting him to be more of a playmaker on offense and to be your anchor defensively. Like, on offense, he's probably going to be your 4th or 5th option. Like, you're not going to be running a lot of sets for him. You'll be running sets through him, if that makes sense. Like, he's going to be kind of an air traffic controller. And if he happens to get a corner 3, so be it. Maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, you could see him start to get some isolation, like Julius Randle type of sets. But I think that's far in the distance. Like, a team getting
that's second contract, Jarace.
Yeah, a team now is focusing defensively, and then, hey, can you just league average from 3 and distribute the basketball in the middle of the floor, similar to what Golden State utilizes Draymond Green in. Like, they put a lot of trust in him, and that is a major skill set to have, and Portland has needed that for so many years. But to get the ball in the middle of the floor. The middle of the floor is a way to break any defense known to man. You're able to make the correct decision, you're going to be unstoppable there. So as long as he can hit a foul line jumper and continue to make the correct passes, you're going to see him stay on the floor. And if he's able to do that, that's where he's going to be really successful as a small ball five, if he can really hone in on the decision making and cut down on the turnovers at the NBA level.
And Draymond's like 6'6". He's a solid 6'8", 6'9". So you even have more height. The fact that we're talking about a 18-year-old freshman student as like, I could see him doing the Draymond Green role as a passer and as a decision maker from the power forward center position, just shows his versatility. Like I've been watching a lot of his games recently, and the way that he's shooting, there's that confidence in it. So if he has that confidence in himself to take and make shots, because he's hitting 40% off catch and shoot. And I think that's like, if he can hit at that marker in the league off a catch and shoot, all that shooting stuff is kind of like, it doesn't really matter. If he can just hit the, I mean, he's going to deserve way more of a closeout than Josh Hart, but if Dame's gravity allows for him to get an open shot, if he's hitting at a 40% catch and shoot marker, I'm fine with that. And then if they close out on him, he has all of these tools in the bag to either make a play for himself, get to the line, use the floater, hit somebody with the correct pass. That's a lot of use. That's a lot of things that he can do for a basketball team. And like, I'm not really worried about the shot, because I've seen him take some like contested threes and then on the next possession block the shot of the person he's defending and then run back for a dunk. So like I think the playmaking has to be something that is what you're counting on, because there's not that many 6'9" playmakers that can just make things happen like the way Jarace does. So
I think
what's up?
I was going to say, I think you talk about the shot making and the decision making, something that's not going to show up on the stat sheet. I think, the quote unquote, he's got that dog in him.
He's the doggest of the dogs.
He hustles. Like,
oh yeah,
there are videos about how he defends inbound passes, because it's a similar thing of Kevin Love in his outlet passes. There was just that trait that he has. He's got some Gerald Wallace in his game, and if he can become a better shooting Gerald Wallace, that Gerald Wallace was an All NBA player. He was an All-Star, and if he can refine his skill set along the way, so he's not out of the league once that athleticism declines, once he hits that 30-year mark, that's really where I see, like, I really can see him playing that role, because he just is everywhere. And that's Gerald Wallace's nickname was Crash. Like, he would do anything and everything. And he just has that intangible just want to be that dog out there. And I think every friggin' team needs someone like that, especially when you're playing 82 games and maybe you're on the second night of a back-to-back in Indianapolis. Like, you might not have the most energy in the world. You can count on Jarace to set the tone. And if he can become kind of that tone setter, that official, kind of the secretary of defense on that end of the court, that is going to make up for, I mean, he's going to be worth his weight in gold, really, if he's able to do that and have that type of impact.
Are we talking about a potential all defensive player with Jarace Walker?
You would, I mean, if you're saying a prospect is the best defender in the draft class, absolutely. Matisse Thybulle was the best defender in that draft class, first team all defense twice. So absolutely, I think that has to be something you're almost, I don't want to say expecting, but you have to somewhat expect it when you're drafting a player.
I think do you think he's a better defender than Evan Mobley?
The thing about Evan is he has traits that Jarace will never be able to get. And he is he's just bigger and he's taller. He's lanky.
I think they're similar.
It's different. It's different.
I mean, the impact that both of those can make, it's like
you can have, it'll be a different type of defense.
Because
Draymond is a different defender than Mobley, but I would argue peak Draymond is one of the best defenders of all time. It's just how you're able to defend. Can you get leverage I mean, we've seen Draymond lock up Jokic because he knows how to get leverage. He studies the game. He knows what he wants to do. Like just like Barkley on the rebounding, he was like 6'4", but he studied where the trajectory of the ball would go off and place his body there. Like there are, and this is where it separates the elite from just the average NBA players. And I think it's something that has escaped scouts for all of mankind. Is just there's an intangible factor. Are the players going to want it enough? Are they a student of the game? Is it just a natural instinct too? Because some players have it and some players don't. Like they can see the game, it slows down for them. If he's able to bring all that together, you're looking at like a first team perennial, not just one or two, perennial defender. And defenders get paid. So it is not a bad skill set to hang your hat on if you're Jarace Walker, because in today's NBA, if you can defend, you're going to get bigger contracts than guys who can put up 25.
Totally. And I remember hearing Kelvin Sampson say how teachable he is at this level. He wants to get better and he listens to his coaches to get better. So to have like a guy that's willing to take criticism and use it to a good advantage. Like I remember when I was 19, I don't want to hear people tell me that I wasn't good at this part of being on the radio or whatever. Like to be able to have the maturity to say, okay, coach, I will do that. And then be able to utilize it. And dude, like it's just he can fit in any scheme. Like if you're trying to blitz, I've seen him just take the ball out of point guard's hands when he's blitzing on the double team. We made poor use of Nurkic try and blitz all last year. But Jarace Walker can do that. He can ice a pick and roll. He can hedge. He can do anything that you need him to do. And I would love to see Yusuf, if he's still on the team, be able to be the big brother to Jarace and teach him like all of the things that he can do. Do you think Jarace Walker is a good pairing for Damian now and Shaedon Sharpe in the future?
It's a really good question.
Thanks.
Personally, if I'm Portland and there's not another megastar on the market, first of all, I'm not trading Shaedon Sharpe under any circumstances. No. That's been my stance almost since I saw him that first game against Sacramento. I was like, this kid's too special. So when I'm looking at these draft prospects, it's who is going to work well with Shaedon long term. And what you want with Shaedon is obviously a defender, because Shaedon, I think, is going to grow into a defender. And I think you want someone with a wingspan and athleticism that can get on the floor and run, but can also get him opportunities in the open court. And when you have a player like Jarace Walker, who's so good in the passing lanes off ball, that you're going to turn defense into offense, and that is going to really start to snowball on the opposition when you're just getting dunked on by Sharpe after all of these, turnovers are created. Like we've watched the Blazers this year, especially early on, when they turn the ball over at such a high clip, they never won. It takes so many possessions away from them and gives their opponent so many easy buckets that they already weren't a good defensive team. So now you're climbing uphill and there's really no end in sight. So I think he fits really well with Shaedon. I think really outside of Victor Wembanyama, I don't know if there's a prospect that's going to be ready for Damian Lillard right now. But again, I think he could make Dame's life easier. But if the goal is to go all in, like I don't know if there's a rookie outside of Wemby that's helping Dame accomplish that. So it's hard to say given Dame's timeline. I could see Portland keeping this pick. I could see them moving it. Like it's really interesting. I think Joe Cronin is saying all of the right things, but his actions are kind of saying another. If you know what, if you can kind of catch my drift, like they're saying, oh, we owe it to Dame, but yet every move they make seems like they're preparing for life post Dame. So, and it also takes two to tango. Like it's when it comes to a trading partner and what other star is on the market. So it'll be interesting to see. I definitely think it would be nice for him to play with a defensive minded big who can make up for some of his mishaps. And then if you're maybe able to trade Ant in the offseason and get, again, more size, more length, another two-way player, because I think that's what the league is based on. The best teams have the best two-way players.
I mean, we've played like we've zigged when everybody zagged. Like I feel like the last 5 years, everybody's been trying to get wings, and we've been going. I mean, we've drafted some wings like Nasir and Shaden, but we've also used a lot of our draft capital and actual capital on 6'3" guards that can score. I think Simons as a scorer, as a shooter, probably top 15, top 10, but he's fucking awful at defense. So it's like we might need to use our first round pick and get some defense. And if we don't get Wemby, I think the best defensive prospect is Jarace Walker being able to at least stop some of these penetration drive and kicks and just drive to the hoop. Like we've watched Drew Eubanks defend the cup. Replace Drew Eubanks with Jarace Walker, and I think a lot of shit doesn't happen. I don't see Jarace doesn't have that insatiable need to jump at everything. I see him high contest a lot. Of course he can block shots and steal the ball, but the way that he just makes people finish over high hands, it's like, oh, this dude knows what to do and where to be on the court. We've seen so often where players are bumping into each other and cutting when other people are cutting. The main culprit of that is gone, but I still see some bad basketball IQ. Just to have a high basketball IQ, high motor, high defensive player, that's awesome to me. So I'm all about Jarace Walker. If he's there when the Blazers pick and we don't take him, I'm going to be pretty bummed, because I think he fits a lot of what we need. And of course, Jeremy Grant's in that position, but he can move down. Jarace can move up. Yusuf's never been healthy for an entire 82. Like Jarace is going to get time, and like what he can do offensively, like we see what Trendon Watford has developed with Shaden Sharp. I think Jarace Walker can do the same with Shaden Sharp on the drives and on the cuts and the lobs. Like Jarace is a really good passer. So to even put the superstar in a better position, I think that's what the Blazers need to do, is find players that make our superstars' lives easier, not harder. And I think for a long time we made Dame's life harder. Like we've had Kent Bazemore and Evan Turner on the perimeter just not even being a threat. So if we can get somebody that's a threat, man, that's going to make whoever our superstars' lives easier. And Shaden and Jarace are similar age. They can grow together, and Shaden's going to be that main guy, but Jarace could be that secondary star next to him. Like we've been saying some pretty illustrious people's names as their player comps. So what are your player comps for Jarace Walker?
Before we get into the comps, I want your opinion.
Okay.
We've pumped him up. We've talked about all the things that he's great at. Where does he struggle? What gives you pause when you look at him as a prospect? If he doesn't hit, it's going to be because of what?
He's not aggressive enough getting to the hoop. He loves that floater. And I think if he can, I like when I see him use that floater, he's really good at it. But I feel like it's kind of an excuse not to try and finish through contact. And I get it. Like there's always a center in his way. So I wonder if NBA spacing makes this problem less of an issue, but he loves that floater too much. And I think if he can just finish in the lane and dunk it, he's going to get to the foul line. It's going to increase all of his statistics just dunking it. So I guess it's the non-aggression, the reliance on the floater. Because I believe the shot's going to be fine. What about you?
I would say I think he's one of the safer picks. I think the floor is pretty high just on the defensive ability alone. Where the ceiling might not get met is if he's not able to grow into being able to take his defender on the perimeter and blow by them with a handle. We're already.
What do you think of his handle? I think it's pretty good for a big man.
It's not bad. I'm more concerned, and I texted you this. He's kind of got that. I think he's still growing. That's my thing. I think he's still growing because when I watch him run or kind of dribble and try to explode, he almost has. he's almost like a baby giraffe out there, and it reminds me a lot of what we're seeing with Jabari Walker. Like it doesn't look like Jabari Walker has finished growing either. Like he just kind of runs a little. It's not like he's able to fully get that stride or his gait, and he's still kind of growing into that. And if he's able to do that, like that's where you really start to get scary, right? If he's able to become that athlete, because you watch Shaden on tape, even in the EYBL against players who will never sniff a D1 offer, he just looked effortless out there, gliding, and it was pure and it was satisfying to watch. And it's just like everything you want to see from a wing athlete. Like it just looked perfect. With Jarace, it's a little bit more like there's a little bit of a hitch. Like, can he get a little bit more smoother in that? And I think that will determine, especially defensively too. Like on the perimeter, can he stick with those quicker guards if he's able to open up?
I think it might be he takes like 3 steps when it should be 2. Like I don't know if the flexibility is in his legs yet, but I think like 2 things. One, I think that his dribbling is pretty good for someone that tall. Like he does hesitations. He does he has a bag defensively, and maybe it's the spacing, but I feel like if he when he utilizes his bag, there's not that many players that are as big and as strong and as fast as Jarace in the league. Like I can think of LeBron and Paulo, and there's not that many people built like him. So if he can get more flexible with his body and you have the dribbles, that's pretty deadly, because he can get to his spots and get to his shot. Sometimes, most of the times it's the floater, but he gets to his spots where he feels very comfortable. Second question, or second thing I want to talk about, is shooting or playmaking the thing that has more star power to it?
For him, playmaking.
No, well, for prospects in general.
It's a team by team basis, in my opinion.
And
Because
player by player.
some teams need a Klay Thompson, some teams need a Draymond, like on the offensive end of the floor. So it's whatever you're going to value. I think they're equally valuable, but what does your team need? I think that's where you kind of drop down from, okay, like I don't think you can really distinguish one quality from the other. Hopefully they have both, right? That's where the elite.
That's where you make the superstars.
Exactly. But then you drop down to the team need. What do I need on my team? Do I need somebody to be a server and dish out all of the dishes to the shooters, or do I need some shooting to open up the floor for my guards? So that for Portland, you need another ball handler, another decision maker, because Lord knows we've needed multiples of those for ages.
If his ball handling and decision making can cut Dame's usage down, that's going to add years onto his life, because he's handling it like prime Luka, prime James Harden, prime Russell Westbrook. If Jarace being a decision maker, and I honestly don't remember the Blazers having a decision making power forward outside of LaMarcus Aldridge. If we can find that in Jarace Walker and bring his usage down, then I think Dame does benefit by Jarace Walker's appearance on this team. But I think that once he is an NBA athlete and doesn't have to go to school all day and can focus on his body, I think that whoever drafts him, hopefully it is Portland, can work on that flexibility with his trunk, because he's strong enough to do whatever. But if he has the flexibility, man, he could be Bam Adebayo with his switchability, and there aren't that many guys that have that.
All right. You asked earlier, what are your player comps for Jarace Walker?
I think he's going to be better than this, but I think Beef Stew and him have a lot of similarities, especially body type. They're both fucking horses. Beef Stew has shown that he can guard guards now. I think Jarace obviously can do that. Jarace has a playmaking. He's such a better playmaker, which means that he's such a better player than Beef Stew, but both of them can shoot. Both of them can play defense. Both of them have the same body type. So a better passing, playmaking Beef Stew is like the 50th percentile outcome for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Isaiah Stewart. Once you mentioned that, I couldn't think of anything more accurate. So I'm going to go with that one as well. What do you think is his middle of the road? Chances are this is who he is type of comp.
I'm going. I love him. I'm going Paul Millsap because I think both of them are similar size. Both of them have that dog in them. Paul Millsap was the leading rebounder in the NCAA. He has that dog in him. They both have skills and skill sets, and once being able to utilize their skill sets, I think that right now Jarace is on a team that's competing for the championship, so he can't be able to show everything. When Paul Millsap went to Atlanta, he was able to show his entire array of his bag, and he went to the All-Star game because of it. So I think the 75th percentile is Paul Millsap.
I said it earlier, but I think you're looking at Gerald Wallace with league average shooting. Great.
Did Crash have the playmaking?
He wasn't really asked to do it in the open court, but when you're just looking at a player in terms of their off ball prowess, their just want and desire, just all out hustle, that's really what comes to mind. And he was given that corner three a lot, and when he hit it, that's when he was really lethal. If he is a league average, that's why I said I think he's Gerald Wallace with league average shooting, and you can maybe sprinkle in some playmaking there, but I think that's a relative expectation, taking someone potentially top five in the draft, and a player who I think Blazer fans would absolutely fall in love with.
Would he be a fan favorite? I think just because of the desire and the hustle.
Bro,
he has to be.
People are already talking about Matisse Thybulle after like 2 games and having one game where he shot 4 for 6 from 3 and blocked Malik Beasley shot in the third row. Blazer fans are like some of the most love drunk fans in the entire NBA. Like he gives one good interview and everyone's just like, fawning over the new guy. Like Blazer fans love everyone. I mean, let's be real. There's maybe like one player on the team that kind of gets scapegoated, but everyone else is like, my uncle might be a drunk. I can say that, but you don't call my uncle a drunk. Like that's the type of love the Blazers have with their fans. Like this is our bunch of guys. And
do you remember Admiral Schofield saying how much he loved the environment?
The tap water. Let's draft him. Let's draft him on that alone. Oh, you like Multnomah Falls? Yeah, fucking let's sign you up. Number 1 overall. Like that's. I mean, Blazer fans love people who love our city and our state, and so yeah, I think he definitely would be. I mean, I can't think of any reason why he wouldn't be. But what is your absolute ceiling 99th percentile and to infinity and beyond comparison for Jarace Walker?
99th percentile is Kawhi Leonard. 90th is Pascal Siakam with much better.
You really think he could get to Kawhi? I don't know. Even that.
Didn't you say pie in the sky ideals?
I suppose. I guess even my biggest pie in the sky, I don't see Kawhi, but this is your comp. So
I feel like Pascal Siakam with league average shooting and very good passing.
That's pretty good for 99th.
Yeah, but I mean, pie in the sky is Kawhi, but I'm cool with saying Pascal Siakam with really good passing. Like, I feel like Pascal, when I watch him, he can pass, but he doesn't have the reads that Jarace Walker has at 19. Like that, the ability to pass and play make for others, that's fucking sexy as a prospect to me, man. So a big man that can pass, I got an affinity for that. So Pascal Siakam, that's a good catch and shoot guy that can shoot off the dribble a little bit and play make really, really, really well.
I don't know if a player exists for his 99th.
I know. It honestly could be Draymond. It could be a taller Draymond.
That's, if I were to say pie in the sky, this is who he is. A more aggressive, offensively minded Draymond Green.
That's like going from Pascal Siakam to Draymond Green shows the versatility that this young man has.
It's hard to see because when I think of Jarace Walker, it's mostly defense. How can he impact the game and who is he compared to defensively? Because that's what I believe in the most. And if he's able to become that type of defender where he's playing off ball and on ball, he's switching, he's playing middle of the floor, he's blitzing, you're able to basically utilize him like a Swiss Army knife. Like that to me is worthy of a 99th percentile comparison. but then you throw in the playmaking, and that's where Draymond really excels. And
Mhm.
even earlier in his career, 2015, 2016, Draymond, he was league average from three.
Mhm.
He didn't used to be so terrible and so hesitant shooting the basketball. So maybe 2015 Draymond Green would be my comparison, because I still don't know if Jarace is ever going to be that Kawhi type of player offensively.
Mhm.
But if he's league average from three and become an elite playmaker, that's where I start to see pie in the sky comparisons from Mr. Green.
That I mean, it's crazy because I can see him being Draymond Green. I can see. Well, I just poked my phone really hard. I could see him being Pascal Siakam. I could see him being Paul Millsap. I can see him being Crash. That shit, like when we talk about our 90th percentile or 99th percentile, it's like, there's a chance he hits it, but I can see him doing that. I can see him making decisions in the playoffs for a very good playoff team, and he's that missing piece that's cleaning shit up and making good plays. Like that's Blazer fans have wanted what Jarace Walker provides for decades, man. Decades. Like a playmaking center that plays defense and is a decision maker and can shoot. That's like everything that's listed he provides at 19. Yeah, I mean, he excites me. Like the potential Jarace Walker on this team excites me. Before we got Shaden, before we got potentially get Jarace, there's like a 1% chance we win the chip. But if Shaden hits what he hits, Jarace hits what he hits, that potential is so much higher because of the height. And that excites me because watching this team with the defensive liabilities that we have, I do it. I love doing it, but
There's a reason no
me.
team outside of the 0-1 Lakers, who kind of lollygagged through the season, has ever been out of the top 10 in defensive rating. Like, no, you have to be top 10 defense bare minimum, unless you have maybe two of the most generational talents of all time on your roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they turned it on in the playoffs and went 16-1. And I don't know if Portland's ever going to get prime Shaq or prime Kobe on the same team, maybe unless they get Wemby and then Shaden just turns into Kobe. But that's for another day.
That's for a very, very happy podcast from the both of us.
So you have to play defense. Defense matters, absolutely. And you can't just get these players, no offense, to like Matisse Thybulle, where they're a liability on the offensive end of the floor. You have to get players that can go offensively and defensively and hold their own and then some. That's how you win. You look at the teams that are going to be competing for championships: Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, the Clippers, even Phoenix. Like, they have players that play offense, but they also play defense, and they have size, they have length, they have athleticism. You have to start putting it together. When people
you
say
have to have players that can defend that.
Yeah.
Like, do you see him guarding 3s, 4s, and 5s? And then if he gets switched on a 2, he won't get destroyed?
I mean, if he's 99th percentile, he should be able to guard everyone.
Yeah.
That's it. But otherwise,
I think Jokic and Embiid will give him trouble, but they give everybody trouble. So
yeah, I mean,
I think he'll put the effort in to make it as hard as possible on those centers too.
I mean, Bam holds his own against 1 through 5. If he can do that, like, yeah, you're gonna excel against players of your size, but if you can at least make it a little bit difficult for those guards, and you can switch and blitz, and if you're on an island, you can put some clamps down once in a while, or even just make the shot difficult. That's really all you can ask for. But again, you're drafting a player really based on their defense in the top 5. The answer to that question has to be a resounding yes. Like, you have to know in your heart, this player 2 to 3 years from now is going to be able to guard 1 through 5. Mm-hmm. Then you go all in and you use that massive asset to draft this player, because you're putting almost a decade worth of investment into this pick. You absolutely cannot miss on high draft picks. Look at the Washington Wizards.
Yep.
We talked about this. Danny Avdija, Rui Hachimura, Corey Kispert. Like, they've just wasted draft pick after draft pick after draft pick.
Johnny Davis, unfortunately.
He's struggling, but I'm willing to give him a little bit of time. But yeah, there were other players that maybe could have helped them a little bit better, or who were progressing a little bit more at the moment. But when you don't draft, you can't build, and when you can't build, you can't win, and when you can't win, you stay in the same spot. So,
In your trading your first round pick or your first rounder from 4 years ago for Kendrick Nunn
and second round picks.
Yeah.
All right, Sage. I got to get back to the baby. It
Absolutely,
was
man. Great
absolutely
episode,
wonderful.
bro.
It was
I'm very
wonderful.
happy to be doing this again.
And we will be back again. I don't know if the cadence will be as frequent as it was last year pre-newborn, but we will do our best.
Mhm.
Very excited to watch the remaining of the season wind down, watch those young guns get all those reps, and start to look at some other prospects who would exceed and thrive alongside of Portland's young core. Sage, let our listeners know where they can find us, and we will be back after this next week of games, probably Sunday or Monday, and go Blazers.
Absolutely. We are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Himalaya Podcast, everywhere where you get your podcast. We're there. Leave us a nice review, 5-star, sub to us, and we will be back doing more Blazers and draft content soon. So peace out, everyone.